Years ago, in the home office of my 2-bedroom apartment, I started a magazine. It was called HR Matters, and it was a quarterly human resource publication. So here I was, an ex-lawyer turned entrepreneur, deciding that I was going to start a magazine. I had never written much before this, much less publish anything, and I had no idea how to start or how to continue, but with a team of 3, we managed to get that magazine off the ground, and we were profitable from the first issue. My proudest moment was when we managed to sell advertising space in effectively a product that no one had seen of, much less, that no one had heard of, much less seen a copy of. I'm here to share with you a simple but powerful idea. What if I told you that if you wanted to, you could have people listen to you and take your views very seriously? What if I were to tell you that every one of you could potentially be an influencer? So why should you become an influencer? Well, when you're an influencer, you make things happen. Doors will open, opportunities will come to you, people will listen to what you have to say. When I started HR Matters, I thought I was just starting a magazine. But what I was actually doing was working towards influencing people. I see this now, but I didn't see it back then. I was influencing people through the choice of topics that we covered, through the contributors that we featured, and the look and feel of the magazine. The truth is, we all want people whom we like and whom we admire, people around us, to care about what we think and to be bothered about our opinions. And if you think about it, you'll realize that you already spend time influencing those around you through your words, what you speak and what you write about, through your actions, and through your social media. And likewise, you're also influenced by those around you. Your choice of university, your friends, the places that you travel to, the books you read, the restaurants you eat at, these are all influenced. But to become an influencer is to think about your personal brand. So why should you do this? I think that you're at such an epic stage of your life right now. You've got so much going on, you've got so much to see and do, so much choice and so much time ahead of you. And I also think that this stage of your life, while exciting, is also fairly complex. In many ways, it's a maze. You don't know what's going to happen if you go down this road or if you go down the next. And you've got all kinds of information coming at you, from your peers and from your family and friends and your teachers, and of course the media. Everything is competing for your attention. So the question is, what do you pay attention to? Who do you listen to? It's challenging and confusing at times because the truth is you've not got very many core skills at this point. It's hard to think of yourself as a set of experiences or skill sets. It's hard to fall back on what you're good at and what you like to do because, well, I think you're still discovering all of that. And I know many people that go on to particular paths because their friends are doing it or their family may be pushing them in a particular direction. But I know this. There's no better way to learn than to do. The people around you will try to set you on your way because they're helpful and because they think they know better. But the truth is, you will need to find it on your own. You won't just miraculously know what your path is and where you're going to end up. You don't know, and people can't tell you. You'll have to make it your own path through discovery and curiosity. If I could go back in time to when I was 15 and tell myself that I'd be standing here today, I would not believe it. 15, awkward, nervous, that ugly blue uniform, deadly serious, and the responsible firstborn, walk home from school and all of that, always with my nose in a book. I never raised my hand in class. I was shy and insecure. And nothing in my past could have led me to see and believe the life that I'm leading now, that I would just hop on a plane after 2 years of legal practice, because there had to be more, plane to Auckland. There had to be more to explore and see and do, that I'd be involved in a startup in Sydney and work there for 5 years, that I'd return to KL and start a business from scratch and begin a magazine. So why do I say this? Because the point is, you don't know. You just don't know until you live, and you try, and you experiment, and you do the things that you care about. So I come back to the point about becoming an influencer. I think you're on the cusp right now. You're about to go out and get your first job. You're probably dabbling in exciting projects on the side. And I think that your personal brand matters, and it has tremendous impact in how people perceive you, which may not seem very important until you need to get in front of people, and until you need them to think a certain way, until you need them to do something specific. Because the fact is, there are very few avenues where you can work completely alone, right? At some point, you're going to need people, the people around you, whether they are shareholders or investors or believers or amplifiers. And your voice and how you've developed it is going to make the difference in terms of how well you are heard and received. So there are 3 parts to my message today. The first is that you spend some time to focus on finding your voice. The second is that you develop your brand. And the third is that you work on becoming an influencer. It's deceptively simple to understand, but it is hard to do. And the difficulty is not so much in the technicality of the task, because the fact is, yes, there will be things that you'll have to master and it will take time, but this is easy enough. The difficulty is in believing in yourself and doing the hard work that's going to take you from here to there, and to do it in the face of uncertainty and hardship and silence. So before we go deeper into this, I'm going to address some of your unasked questions. So why find your voice? I know what it is, it's my voice. Why develop my brand? What does that even mean? I'm an introvert, I don't want to develop my brand. Or become an influencer? That's for the gurus out there. How can I possibly compete? So what is your voice? It's figuring out who you are and what you're about and what you want to focus on. This takes time, of course. I remember it was not easy to get to this point. There was confusion and there was self-doubt. There still is. I remember second-guessing myself. I remember holding back on sharing what I thought, because the fact was, who was I to be sharing on various things that were specialized and technical? And looking back, I believe that you need to go through that process. It took a long time, not so much to find my voice, but to have that strength of conviction to put it out there. I think they call that imposter syndrome, the persistent fear that you're going to be discovered as some sort of fraud. And the reason that this happens is because you just don't wake up one day and find your purpose. You just live and you get curious and you explore what's around you and you figure things out, things that you like and things that you don't like, the things you're good at and the things you're not so good at. And once you have done that, once you know who you are and what you want to do, that's when life starts to get really interesting. So first I would find my voice. I would discover myself. And I won't be driven by fear, but by hope and possibility. Try new things all the time. And be willing to fail. Be openly willing to go there. Because the truth is, you don't learn from your successes, you learn from the things that you suck at. Me, I failed more times than I can remember. It was relatively easy to set up my business. We had quick wins early on, but there were peaks and there were troughs. And some of those troughs were long and very silent. Work was unrelenting, 15 to 18-hour days for long stretches, very little sleep, a young and growing family, and days would just be a whirlwind of activities, you know. Get up and school runs and projects to finish and phone calls and meetings and then a jog and dinner to prepare, kids to to shower and put to bed, and once all that is done, it's back to the laptop to get more stuff done. And in the quiet of the night, before I finally fell dead asleep, I'd be wondering, is this ever going to end? Am I going to get back up again? So yeah, failure will be your friend. And it's good because I learned. I figured out what I wanted and I figured out how to get there through that. So your voice is really going to be something that you're going to come to over time. And you can use that to influence those around you. So you're probably wondering how I came to this idea of becoming an influencer. Well, I've always been a reader, even if I didn't have access to as many books as I wanted to growing up. But the internet, it changed everything for me. I had this opportunity to read and consume as much as I wanted to, and all I had to do was just put the time aside to do it. And what I found were blogs. Different people doing different things, interesting things. People sharing their journey, who they were and what they were about and where they were going, and how they were failing and how they were getting back up again. And they would go into a lot of details about whatever they were going through. And they did it to show others how it was done for them, but also to point a way forward for those who are on the same path. And that was a breakthrough for me, that we could all share our ideas and our journey, and we would all have different experiences in different contexts, and if we shared it, maybe, just maybe, somebody would get something out of it. And I got a lot from all of these people. I learned things like content marketing and how to start a business, how to write and how to run an email campaign, so they were right. It was helpful to others, and I thought if they could do it, I could do it too. I could share my journey, and maybe somebody would get something out of it. The thing is, you may get discouraged because you may think that you may not have anything to add, or something of value. You may think that I can't really speak or write that well, or you don't want to sell yourself so hard. Unfettered dreams. That's the idea that I want you to hold close to your heart. The idea that when you dream big. And you don't let all these negative things and all the possibilities that can go wrong to come into your mind. You just dream big. Because writing is powerful and evocative. And it has the capacity to reach more people than the spoken word. So write. But for those of you who are not very familiar with that and never tried it, I guess writing can be a very daunting thing to say yes to which I would say, start slowly but consistently. So then the question is, what will I write about? Well, that's a question I get all the time. People come up to me and they say, I want to write, I want to get published, and tell me what I should write about. And my answer is always the same. It's not for me to tell you what to write about. It's for you to figure it out. It's for you to write about yourself, to write about what you care about, what you're passionate about, to write about what you know, and to write about your journey. And one more tip, keep the writing and the editing process separate. So what does that mean? It's awful when you have to stare at a blank page, but as a writer, this is something that you have to get used to. And most likely you'll stumble in the first page or so, and as you start writing, you'll get frustrated because the words are not coming out right. You just keep writing. You just let it flow and you empty out everything that's in your brain, and then you rest and you come back to it, because the fact is, writing and editing, they use different parts of the brain, and if you keep switching between the two, then it will really sap you. So take a break and come back to it, and you'll do a much better job editing. But more than anything else, you've got to realize that potential content sits all around you. Conversations you have, and people you talk to, and the things that you read. So it's really about being mindful about these different ways in which you can get ideas. Developing a brand is also about being aware of how you're positioning yourself, online and offline. What you're doing is you're creating an image of yourself. You're not trying to deceive, but what you're trying to do is you create an image of yourself, a digital image that ultimately matches your physical image or presence. where people who know you online and they see the things that you're writing about, and they see how you think about certain issues, and then one day they finally get the chance to meet you, and the transition is seamless. Who you are online is who you are in person, and that's what you want, an authentic representation of yourself. And once you've spent the time to develop your brand and figured out how you like to position yourself, then begins the work to establish yourself in your niche, whatever that may be. You want to influence your peers and the thought leaders in your space, and you want to put together compelling work, the kind of work that's going to get others to take notice of you and listen to what you have to say. And I think that writing is a very effective way of doing that. Of course, speaking opportunities are for the same but it's typically within a smaller captive audience, so unless it's recorded and shared, it's limited to that audience. So build your body of work, choose an area that you're passionate about, dig deep, and over time you will find that you're developing expertise. It doesn't happen overnight, of course, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to wait 20 years to get there. I think that social media sites, LinkedIn, blogs, and just generally the ease with which all of us now can make ourselves heard, I think that's fairly compelling. And I wouldn't ask myself why, I would say, why not do this? The playing field is really leveled, and I think that the opportunities are there for the taking. So I say take it. Because when I look back at that time when I was 15, I'm just amazed how far I've come. Thank you.